I don't really want to tell you my story, but Pua insists that I do. What are friends for, right? She never lets me forget that we stood up to the most powerful man in the known world and changed the future of the human race. She wants our story told. Pua. She might be exaggerating a little bit. I mean, we were a couple of lowly slaves who were good midwives and good liars. We did save thousands of babies. Baby boys. And a few of them did turn out to be pretty special. One in particular.
Moses lived to be 120 years old. Many scholars believe he lived the first 4 decades in the courts of Egypt, the next 4 as a shepherd in Midian, and the last 4 leading the Hebrews after the exodus from Egypt.
Midwives and liars. I gotta smile at that. You know what a midwife is. You still have them. Throughout the centuries and into your time, trained doctors have not always been available to help women through the birth process. That's where we come in. Midwives are trained women and men who help moms through the birth process. It is the best job in the world. New life is our business. Life. Okay, yes, so there's a lot of pain mixed into that best job in the world. In my day, midwives had special knowledge of herbs and potions that help women through the pain. It's painful then as it is now. But oh, when you hear that baby cry and you see that mother's face. Pua and I didn't have any children then, but our joy was complete in what we did. Let me set up my story. More than 3 centuries before my time, Joseph and the other sons of Jacob moved from Canaan to Egypt. To Joseph, such a powerful politician, the Egyptians allowed his family to settle in the Goshen region. They were shepherds. But this was not a big deal because the Egyptians were primarily farmers, not shepherds. Joseph's father, Jacob, was also named Israel. His descendants were known as the 12 tribes of Israel, or the Israelites. The Israelites had large families, and after many generations, there were hundreds of thousands of them. Now, they were located way over in Goshen. But when a new Pharaoh came to power, he recognized the danger of them. What if they rebelled? What if all those Israelites, hundreds of thousands of them, united in a rebellion? So, he made them all slaves. They were forced into hard labor. They worked building public monuments and other buildings without machinery. Back-breaking, soul-crushing work. And it was endless. The Israelite slaves were treated ruthlessly by the Egyptians. Pua and I were well-known midwives. Pretty much the only well-known midwives, really. And we stayed busy. The Israelites produced babies as fast as desert rabbits. With every baby, we saw the joy of life under the heavy hand of rule. With every baby, the Pharaoh got more frightened of rebellion. Finally, the Pharaoh, the most powerful man in the known world, summoned Pua and me, 2 unknown lowly midwives. Now, I know, I said we were well known, but we thought that was just in our pregnant Hebrew women's circles. We were wrong. We were commanded by the Pharaoh himself to kill the babies if they were boys. Kill babies. But we feared God more than the Pharaoh, so we did no such thing. Months later, when nothing had changed in terms of population control, the Pharaoh called us in again and demanded to know why the baby boys survived. Well, I said, The Hebrew women deliver so quickly, the babies arrive before we get there. Pop right out like desert rabbits. We didn't say that last part. But God was so pleased with us. He gave us families of our own. We had our own kids. But as pleased as God was, Pharaoh was just as displeased. He commanded us and all of the Hebrews to throw their baby boys into the Nile and drown them. One of the Hebrew descendants of Levi married a woman from the same tribe. They had a daughter, then years later, a son. After 3 months, they obediently threw the son in the Nile, but before doing so, they placed him in a waterproof basket, and they made sure the basket ended up in the exact location where the Pharaoh's barren daughter bathed. The baby sister waited nearby. The Pharaoh's daughter came to the river, discovered the basket, and took pity on an obviously Hebrew baby. Now, I say obviously because that is an important part of this story. Pharaoh's daughter knew it was a Hebrew baby because the boy had been circumcised. No other people group circumcised their children, just the Hebrews. Now, this would be a reminder to the baby all of his life that he was a Hebrew. The baby's sister popped out of the reeds and asked if Pharaoh's daughter would like her to take the baby back to the Hebrews where he could be nursed until a safe age. The baby's sister Miriam would play a big part in his later life. That arrangement was made, and Pharaoh's daughter agreed to pay for the baby's care. Pretty good deal, huh? The parents saved the boy and got paid to raise him. At the appropriate time, the boy was brought back to the Pharaoh's daughter. She named him Moses, and she raised him in the court of the Pharaoh. He received the best food and education. Our disobedience to the powers that be resulted in a Hebrew boy becoming part of the royal family of Egypt. Pua and I laughed for hours and hours about this. Let me digress a little bit. Egyptian pharaohs were considered to be gods. When they died, their successors were considered to be gods also. Now, unlike some other societies, the daughters of pharaohs often came into power. Sometimes a son and daughter got married to keep things orderly. But the Bible doesn't say. But it is likely that Pharaoh's daughter had several children and nieces and nephews who vied for power. Now, as a Hebrew, Moses would have been at a big disadvantage to becoming Pharaoh, but he very likely was a threat to other possible heirs. Spoiler alert, in the far future, Moses will have a severe confrontation with the Pharaoh. Now, that Pharaoh will likely be one of the relatives Moses grew up with in court, basically a brother. Moses is now an adult, and one day he leaves the palace and walks among the commoners, the Hebrews. He sees an Egyptian master beating a Hebrew slave. No one is around, so Moses kills the Egyptian and hides him in the sand. The next day, he goes out among the Hebrews again. He sees two of them fighting. He attempts to stop the fight. They turn around and taunt him. They ask, "Will you kill us like you killed the Egyptian?" His murderous act was known. But being the step-grandson of the Pharaoh would not be enough to protect him, especially from his adopted relatives who were also his competitors. Moses flees the court, the palace, and the country to escape Pharaoh's wrath. Moses travels to Midian, a desert area more than 250 miles east of Egypt. While waiting by a water well, he encounters the 7 daughters of Reuel, the priest of Midian. When some shepherds try to drive the daughters and their sheep from the well, Moses protects them. In gratitude, Reuel has Moses eat bread with him and allows him to live with the family. Eventually, Moses marries one of the daughters, Shiphrah. They have a son named Gershom. Many years pass. Moses' step-grandfather dies. The new Pharaoh is even harsher to the Israelites. They are given less resources and are expected to get more work done. Hours are long, conditions are unconscionable. The Hebrews suffer in ways few people groups in your time could identify with. There are some groups exploited like this today, but most of Western culture is shielded from their plight. No one helps the slave. There is no record in the Bible that God had direct contact with the Israelites since the time of Joseph hundreds of years before. The memories of their one true God were surely distant and dim. They were, however, in daily contact with the Egyptian gods and the culture around them. The Israelites call out to the only source who could save them. They cry out to God for relief. God hears their prayers and remembers his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that the Israelites are to have the land of Canaan. Change is coming. Moses tends the flock of his father-in-law Reuel on Horeb, the mountain of God. Pretty much just him, his staff, the sheep, when the angel of the Lord appears in a flame of fire burning a bush. Moses sees that the bush is in flames but is not burning up. He's curious. He approaches the bush. Moses. Moses. It was God. Take off your sandals. Don't come nearer. You are standing on holy ground. Can you imagine all the things going through Moses' mind? I am the God of your father, of Abraham, of Isaac, and Jacob. Moses hid his face. If he saw God's face, he would surely die. God continued. He had seen the Hebrews in their distress. He was determined to send them back to Canaan, the land he'd promised to Abraham. And here is the best part. God wanted someone to lead them out of Egypt. Moses. Now think about it. A God that Moses barely knows is sending him back to the royal court that wants to kill him. Moses, like most of us would do, starts making excuses for why he should not go back. He definitely should not go back to Egypt. He definitely should not and does not want to go back to Egypt. Moses explains, I'm a nobody. God tells him that doesn't matter, and that God himself will provide the power and the incentives for Pharaoh to set them free. Moses insinuates that the Hebrews themselves won't recognize his authority and that they don't even know God. Who should I say sent me? Tell them I am the God of their ancestors sent you, God says. The leaders of the Hebrews will go with you to Pharaoh, and he will refuse you until I punish him severely. Finally, you will actually plunder the Egyptians in their desire for you to leave. Well, Moses makes more excuses. No surprise there. It's a sticky situation. It's family, royal family, a strange royal family. Moses' herding staff, God turns it into a snake. Then he strikes Moses with leprosy and then heals him. In the end, God even allows his older brother Aaron to go as his sidekick. Moses is out of excuses. He gives in. He agrees to go back to Egypt. Now, as usual, the Bible doesn't provide exact dates for the events in this story. But, according to the text, Moses was 80 years old when he went back to Egypt from Midian. Aaron was 83. The Bible says that all of Moses' original enemies were dead when Moses took his wife, his sons, and Aaron back to Egypt. Picture it. A band of shepherding nomads emerged from the desert and descend on the opulent royal courts of Egypt. As an Israelite, I'll tell you right now, I would not have found that inspiring at all, even as a midwife and one of his biggest fans. When they arrived in Egypt, Moses gathered together the leaders of the Hebrews, and Aaron told them everything the Lord had said to Moses. They performed signs before the people, and they believed what Moses told them. And when they heard that God was concerned about them, they bowed down and worshiped. These Hebrew slaves were fired up and ready to go. Their misery was almost over. They were sure of it. All Moses and Aaron had to do was go appear to Pharaoh, and their slavery would end. They were sadly mistaken.